We're getting ready to get started now. Hello? We're getting ready to get started now. Okay? Is that okay with everybody?
Can you see this? I did until it went dark.
Okay, you could see it.
I could see it, yeah. Is that going to have the timer on it?
No, yes.
No. Okay.
And I'll try not to do that again.
I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Mr. Mayor, can you see that? Can you see that? That's what time.
Okay, so just so you tell me what's going to happen. How come you asked me? My eyesight's better than this guy's.
I'm being nonpartisan, and I'm asking everyone.
She's starting at the oldest one.
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I can see it.
I want to say good afternoon to everybody. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters, we are going to bring to you, hopefully, everything that our nice candidates have to offer. We have 3 questions that we're going to ask, and there's 4 minutes to each question. And our timekeeper is Joanne Speed. She's also a member of the League. After 3 minutes, she will hold up a sign. We will not go over your allotted time. And another thing I would like to say is that our League, we don't support or oppose any political candidate. We are totally nonpartisan. That's the way it's going to be. And we will not have any arguing or fussing or name calling or anything like that. I was told to say that. Because we have to. We want to make sure that we have control and a high degree of respect for each one of our candidates. Now, Dr. Jody Inglefield, due to prior commitments, he could not be here. And we miss him, but we'll let him know. Somebody's telling me to say something. No, what we're going to do is, he could not, and so graciously, he had to do some things, and graciously I present to you that he could not be here, other than his prior commitments. Now, without any further ado, we're going to have 3 questions. And Rudy suggested they go in alphabetical order, and I agree with him. All the candidates, they have access to the same questions that I'm going to read out. The first will be, why are you running for the office of mayor for the city of Hickory? And that first question will go to Mr. Brittain, since you were the big.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks to everybody for coming out tonight. It's great to see such a good turnout, especially on a Friday night when I know a lot of you could have dates and you chose to be here instead. I've been asked a number of times by a lot of different people, why do you want to be mayor? And there's actually a number of reasons, so I'll try to, since I have a time limit, I'll try to keep it more concise. First of all, my feeling is, over the years, our city government has become stagnant. There's no growth, there's nothing really happening in the city, and I have 2 young children, and that really bothers me. I've worked in city government for a long time, I've worked on some of the city boards, and I feel like I have the experience and the knowledge to be able to inject progress back into the city. And I feel like I have the leadership capabilities where we can make that happen. We've had 5 straight years, the last 5 years, of double-digit unemployment, and that's just totally unacceptable. With 2 young children, one of my big concerns is that they will have a job. If they don't have a job here, they're going to leave. That's another thing. We've lost 18.6% of our population in the 25 to 34-year-old age group, and that's just really sad. These are the people who have graduated from college, who have young children, starting a family, and they're entering the workforce, and there's nothing to do around here, so they're leaving, and that is a huge loss for this area. And it's bad now, and then those people aren't going to be here for our future either, and it's just going to get worse unless we fix the problem we have with the lack of jobs in Hickory. Right now, I feel like our ship is floundering here in Hickory, and we need to right it. I think we can do that with innovation. I think we can do that with some progress, and I think I'm the person who can help you do that. and I guess that's why I want to run for mayor.
Okay, that's fine. Now, I'm going to ask everybody to hold their applauses until after all the questions have been answered. Our next candidate will be Mrs. Is it Harold? Yeah, Harold. Candice Harold. Okay. First question.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I have been asked this question a few times as well. Why am I running for mayor? I'm running for mayor because this is my hometown. I was born and raised here. And whenever I returned back home, Hickory didn't look the same as it did when I'd left. Hickory had went down. It did not progress as I thought that it would. Yes, we had new restaurants and some additions to Hickory, but by and large, there was a sense of hopelessness. Now, every one of you may not be able to relate to that, but let me tell you that there are people in this city that have been unemployed for 3 to 5 years. There are people, this spans different age groups, not just young people. This also spans the baby boomers and people who are past the baby boomer age that still, they may be under retirement age and they are not working. They are too young to get their Social Security, and they have been doing nothing for the past 3 to 5 years. That right there, again, if that's not your particular situation, I know that you can have sympathy for those people. And I have sympathy as well as empathy for those people because I have been unemployed since the economic downturn. I have been, but luckily, with the skills and the education that I have, I've been able to find employment. My employment right now is 30 miles away from home. I drive there every day. As far as other people, some people do not have cars. They can't do what I do. And that hurts my heart. I feel sorry for them, and I want something better for them. As well, I can't get a job. I can't get a job. What are your issues of why you can't get a job? Well, I don't have a car. It's like, okay. Well, what about the bus? Oh, I can't ride the bus because you know what? I can only work a first shift job. If I'm not where I need to be by 5:30 coming back towards Hickory, I have no ride home. So we have second and third shift jobs sometimes. They can't go and work those second and third shift jobs because our transportation system doesn't allow them to have a reliable way home. As far as many of the things in Hickory, I saw those things and I thought, what could I do about that? What could I do? In the past, I've been a business owner. I could start a business, okay, but what could I do by and large that would put a lot of them back to work? All of the things I thought of were on a smaller scale. So me running for mayor, that is to make sure that all citizens of Hickory get their fair chance. Thank you.
Okay. Our next candidate would be Mr. Masche. Masche. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here on Friday night. I know, I think when Carolyn called me on Tuesday, I said, really, you're going to do this on a Friday night? It's high school football, and a lot of families are out at football games. In fact, I have to be at one as soon as I'm done here. The reason I want to be mayor of Hickory, I'd actually considered doing it in 2009. My previous business was as a photographer. I owned a corporation, and we did NASCAR photography, so I was traveling extensively around the country and the world doing photography, and I didn't have the time to dedicate to it. I sold my corporation to my partner, my half of it, and now I'm living here in Hickory back full-time, and I have the time to dedicate to the job. I think that there's quite a few things that have gone downhill in Hickory. Obviously, we're all talking about the same subject, the high unemployment rate, the lack of jobs, our youth leaving at an alarming rate for the past 6 to 8 years. I even have an 18-year-old son that just went to NC State, and that was one of the questions I asked before we took him down there to school, is what do you think you're going to do when you get done with college? And he said, well, I probably won't come back to Hickory. I'm going to have to go somewhere where I can find something that I like better and maybe find a town that has more activity. So I think we need to reach out to our youth. I think we need to reach out to the colleges, to the high schools, get our youth active in our government to help grow our government, get some new, fresh ideas, some thinking out of the box. Like Jeff said, I also agree that we've gotten a little bit stagnant here in Hickory. We've been complacent and satisfied with the status quo, and I think I've got the leadership qualities, everything that I've participated in. I've always been a leader, whether it's Cub Scout or running a corporation. And I've got enthusiasm. I'm willing to get in there, roll up my sleeves, do the work that I think the city of Hickory needs to get some things accomplished and get us back on track where we need to be. I think there's a division in the city, and I believe that we need to pull all the communities back together, North Hickory, South, East, and West. I think there's a little bit of division there with a lot of things that have happened over the last couple of years, and I hope I can influence everybody to put that bitterness aside, come back together as a community, and let's head forward and do some great things with the city of Hickory and get it back to where it needs to be.
So far, so good. They're on time. Okay. Our next candidate is Mr. Revels. I know I said that Revels. I said that wrong too. Excuse me.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. I appreciate that. It looks like a pretty nice turnout. I've asked myself, and my wife has asked me a number of times, why in the world would you want this job? Sometimes it's very rewarding, I'm sure, and other times it's very, very bad because everybody, it seems like, is going to be against you because you can't please everybody all the time. So what we try to do is to hit that middle road and push on. I am a community service type of person. I believe in helping people as much as I can. I used to work over at Fry Hospital in the orthopedic ward, helping people get back on your feet. And people have hip problems, knee problems, shoulder problems, those kind of things. And there's nothing more rewarding for a person than to see them get up from the bed and walk. It's just something that I just can't believe. You can see the smile and the determination on their face. It's wonderful. So keeping those traits in mind, as far as being mayor, my intent is to help people. And I can do that in a number of ways. One of the things is you can try and bring more jobs to the city. I've been toying around with an idea that if I can get 1% of the budget for the year that I go in, I can hire 100 people on a part-time basis. And these people would come from Lenore Ryan, from the community college, and then a certain amount would be from the city itself. And I'm thinking more in the way of young people, and these people can be spread across any spectrum in the city workforce. You know, one of the great things is public works projects. They had them during the 20s, and you can paint parks, you can do administrative duties, you can work in the crime lab, all these kind of things if you're qualified. Okay, and I'm sure we have a lot of young people that are. So that's one thing that I'm thinking about. The other is that I think that if I can manage the city's fiscal responsibility and really try to hold spending to an acceptable level, I think that would be an improvement. So, like I said, I'm a community service-oriented guy, and I wish to lead the city in a physical responsibility because Hickory is a wonderful city. I love Hickory. Thank you very much.
And our next candidate is last but certainly not least. He's our incumbent, Rudy Wright, Mayor Rudy Wright.
I was scheduled tonight at about this very moment to be cutting the ribbon for the new Hickory Community Theater renovations. That's something all of us need to be proud of because people of all walks of life, all sections of town, all races, all creeds, all colors participate in our great theater. $1.5 million of renovations. I helped lead the city of Hickory in our contribution to that. And I'm proud to say that my wife and I made a personal donation to the capital campaign. This was the most important place I could be tonight, and I'm glad to be here. You're here to learn who you want to vote for to lead this city over the next 4 years. No one has mentioned inspiring spaces. I don't know whether they don't understand it, they don't believe in it. They think if they talk about inspiring spaces, they're going to have to talk about asking our people to commit even more than we've already committed. I'm here to tell you, we are going to commit. I want to lead that effort. I want to be the one that helps us implement inspiring spaces to develop the amenities and beautify our city, to encourage newcomers, our LR students, our children who go off and go to school, retirees, and tourists to come to Hickory and see what's going on here and make this part of their lives. You know, in 2009, in the heart of what I call the Great Depression, the country had a Great Recession. If anybody thinks we just had a Great Recession, I've got news for them. We had a Great Depression. In 2009, no one wanted to run for mayor except me. We've got inspiring spaces going. We have involved key leaders from all phases and all sectors of our city. And they are helping us to develop a plan that's going to lead us to overcome the economic difficulties we've been facing. We've turned the corner, and now it seems that everybody wants to be mayor. Okay? That's the way I see it. And that's fine. That's the American way. Everybody with $12 can file. I'm proud of the people here who are giving their time and effort to run. We've got to grow our population to grow jobs. We've got to grow jobs to grow our population. And the way we're going to do that is beautification, amenities, renovation and demolition of old buildings, and preparation of job-ready, shovel-ready sites for companies who will consider locating here. That's going to give us a tremendous competitive advantage, and it is going to require an investment. You're going to have a leader who can talk the people into following all of the leaders throughout this community in Innovate Catawba and Inspiring Spaces in Hickory. We have learned by visiting other communities, our council, that our people will learn from their experiences. Those communities that invest in themselves will encourage others to invest as well, companies and businesses. We've got a couple of examples. This Holler Hosiery Mill, that was an example of private investment and the City of Hickory's investment and federal investment. More recently, the Lackey Project, which someday will have a conservancy right at Geithner Park, and someday we'll walk past that conservancy to amenities, shopping, and entertainment on the other side of that bridge. I want to lead you, and that's why I am willing to give another 4 years of my time. Thank you.
Okay, we're going on to the second question now. We thank each candidate for completing the first section of those questions. The next question is multi-questions, but you've got your cards, and most of you have already touched on this already. How would you address, as mayor, the following? The city's high unemployment, the city's high crime rate. How would you provide additional affordable housing? And how could you address the decreased funding for city schools? Okay, we're going to go back in the order that you started before.
Thank you. And as I mentioned before, one of my big things for this race is jobs. I'm all about the jobs. To get jobs in Hickory, we have to do several things. First of all, we have to retain the jobs that we have. We've lost a lot of businesses here. We've lost a lot of jobs, over 47,000 jobs that we lost in Hickory. And we've got to do something to get those back. Sitting around waiting for people to come back is not going to make it, it's not going to fix it, it's not going to make it happen. So what I would like to do is hire a dedicated person who works for the city that would focus on bringing those jobs back to Hickory, focus on business recruitment, satisfaction of the businesses that we have, and make sure nobody else is going to leave. In North Carolina in 2011, 64% of the local governments around here had a dedicated person focused on economic development. The city of Hickory does not. We have the Economic Development Corporation headed by Scott Millar, Nathan, and a couple other folks down there, and they do a great job. But a win for them is any business that comes to Catawba County. They're not focused on Hickory. I want a dedicated person, 100%, that we can control, that we can, that's bad, that we can control their actions and hold them accountable, that is going to work for the citizens of Hickory to get those jobs back here. Between the decades of 1990 to 2000 and from 2000 to 2010, Hickory had the largest decrease in growth of 14 cities that were in a study. And that is very, very sad. And there were some big cities in there. There was Raleigh, there was Charlotte, but there was also Goldsboro and Rocky Mountain, some others closest to our size. Burlington was another one, for example. And we had the largest decrease in growth. From 2000 to 2010, as I mentioned before, we lost over 18% of the young people leaving this area. And why? I asked several people I know that fell into that age group and who were leaving Hickory. And I asked them, I said, why? And they said, there's nothing for me to do here. There's no jobs. There's no social aspect in Hickory that is what I want to do. They were all looking for activities in the evening. They were looking for something to engage them. And they said that was missing in Hickory. They loved this area. They thought it was beautiful, but they had to go where the jobs were. And unfortunately, right now, that's not Hickory, and that's why jobs are my #1 priority. The University of North Carolina Chapel Hill School of Government did a survey a while back, and they came up with this result. And I'll paraphrase it for you, but basically they said that for every dedicated person focused on economic development who spent 75% of their time working on those activities, they were able to gain 2 additional economic activities. That means 2 more businesses, 2 more successes. That's why I feel it's imperative that we have a person dedicated to the city of Hickory, focused on economic development for us. According to the Western Piedmont Council of Government in 2011, between 2000 and 2010, the poverty rate in Hickory rose from 9.8% to 16.7%. For the folks who were school age, under 18, that increased from 13.3% to 25.5%. That means 1 out of every 4 children under the age of 18 was living in or at the poverty level. And you look around, this is a community that has lots of money, and that is just totally unacceptable. And a lot of it has to do with those loss of jobs. People just aren't able to recover. One of the big indicators for growth is housing starts. In 2000, the Hickory MSA had 1,750 new housing starts. That's a good, solid number. That's what we expected. We had seen growth through the 80s and 90s, and that was right about the peak. In 2011, 299. 1,750 to 299. And that's the whole Hickory MSA. It's not just the city of Hickory, but it's this whole area. And that is really, really sad. There's a lot of other jobs and a lot of other things that... Thank you.
Okay, we're going to continue to go in the same order.
Ms. Harold next. Some of these things I've addressed already, but some things I have not touched on. The high unemployment, high crime rate, affordable housing, and decreased funding for city of schools. I have it outlined in my platform, which is available online, and I will cover a few of those things. As far as unemployment is concerned, one of my focal points is establishing a City of Hickory business incubator. And with that incubator, what it will do is provide the support that new businesses need. Between that first one to 3 years, that is a crucial part for a new business. That's the time whenever it's either going to fail or it's going to have success. With the business incubator, it will provide support to these brand new entrepreneurs. It will provide them business credit knowledge. It will provide them licensing information. It will also provide them information as far as funding, loans, and further accounting, marketing, and just those aspects that people generally find kind of daunting whenever they're starting a new business. In addition to that, we will offer reduced leases. That is a large overhead expense that brand new business owners normally find very hard to deal with. Coming up with that capital, they have reduced capital starting out anyway, so giving them a leg up would be reducing their rent, their leaseholds. In doing this, we'll partner with SCORE, we'll partner with the Catawba County Chamber of Commerce, CBCC, the SBA, or Small Business Administration, to be sure that they have the support. I've spoken to a few different people, and they are at CBCC and Lenore Ryan, and they're very excited about it. The others are just in the community, and people have ideas. People have things that they want to do. So I think it was mentioned as far as the inspiring spaces, it's not that I'm not talking about it. I think instead of inspiring spaces, we need to inspire people. So another thing I want to do is revamp. We talked a little bit about the Economic Development Department, and as far as this turning the corner, I'm not for sure where we turn this corner. I'm not for sure because unemployment, we are number 3 in the U.S., We're tied with Rhode Island, and Catawba County is high, Hickory is high. So I don't know about it reducing down or us turning the corner. As well, with the economic development, we would have it where they would aggressively go after new businesses. And with that being said, they have to report that information monthly. Okay, we went and saw such and such. Okay, this is the possibilities for our city, and be able to report that information back. When furniture was booming, in essence, we had our doors shut, closed to other companies. And then some of the companies that we did let in, they went away. We need to vet new companies to come to our city. Companies are looking for reasonable cost of living, reasonable crime rate, and good schools. We have that. We also need to collaborate with local businesses, CBCC, and make sure that those people that don't have GEDs, make sure they get them, because they can't get employed now, even if they were working 10, 20 years. If they do not have a high school diploma in Hickory, a lot of employers are not hiring them. So, home ownership was another aspect of it. Instead of affordable housing, I'm looking at home ownership in order to make more people homeowners. I think that will invest back into the community and make sure that people really love Hickory, because they will be homeowners.
Okay, next.
That's 4 pretty big topics to cover in 4 minutes. I know we're all getting right to the 4-minute mark and going to go over it, but I think we've all talked about the unemployment issue, the economy being down. We need to be more proactive and go after these companies, much like the first 2 candidates said. I think we need to have some type of incentive plan set up, whatever the incentives are, whether it's to help them with the lease, to help them with getting their certificates, their regulations, their inspection from the city. Let's make all of that an easier process and a faster process to get the companies up and running. I've talked to a lot of business owners in Hickory over the past few weeks, and I keep hearing the same thing. Why is it so hard to start a business in the city of Hickory? It's easier in Morganton. It's easier in Statesville. So we need to make us a more friendly city to our new business owners, nurture the ones that are here, help them keep their businesses going, and let's keep growing at that. The city's high crime rate, I think at the last city council meeting, Mr. Mayor, didn't they say that our crime rate has dropped the last 3 or 4 years consistently? So I don't think we have a high crime rate, but we can always make it better. I think we need to shoot for drug-free and crime-free Hickory. I know that's probably a lofty goal to try to reach, but if we try to reach for the absolute best, hopefully we're going to be the #1 city in the state. We'll be drug-free. We'll have the lowest crime rate, which I think Hickory could do. It's going to take, again, a group effort. The city government, as well as the county sheriff's office, whatever task forces that we have in place, and we may have to start another one or expand the task forces that we do have. I know we have a gang unit here in Hickory, and they're doing a fine job, but I think they're somewhat undermanned and could probably use some more help to help clean that up. So I think our crime rate is good, but I do think we need to work on it, and let's try and make it better. As far as additional affordable housing, I know we have a lot of housing here. One of the topics that I'm a little concerned about is the homeless here in Hickory. I think we have a lot of homeless veterans. I went to a meeting of Veterans Helping Veterans this week and found out that we have anywhere between 30 and 50 homeless veterans just in the city of Hickory, and probably close to 200 in the county. So, I mean, those people, men and women, young and old, have given their life for our country to go fight for us, to give us our freedoms, and we're turning our back on them and not giving them a place to live, an affordable place. And I think that's where we need to concentrate on our affordable housing, is to help the veterans and the homeless and give them some places to live. The decreased funding for city schools, I went to the school board meeting that when they had it at Hickory High, I believe it was 2 years ago, when they told us they were going to cut our funding by, I think it was $40 million. I think what we need to do to help the schools in the area is get the big corporations that are here in the city that want youth to work for them to put some money into the schools. There's no reason why we can't have apprenticeship programs, mentorship programs. These companies have a lot of money. They need employees. So let's get them to work with the schools, put some funding back into the schools to offset what the state has taken away. And that way we can keep our schools as good as they are, and hopefully one of the best school systems in the state. I went through the school system here, elementary, junior high, and high school, and my son did too. I don't think we suffered through any of that, so we just need to keep working on it, and again, bring the city together, and let's work on keeping our education as good as it is.
Well, high unemployment is jobs, jobs, jobs. That's the only way it can be solved. There's a number of ways you can approach this, but the truth of the matter is, it's going to take a long time to turn the city around. We're not going to do it in 4 years. We're not going to do it in 10 years. You probably won't even do it in 20 years. You lost 45,000 jobs. You're not bringing them back quickly. But what we can do in the meantime is, our city already has a committee that focuses on trying to get jobs here, companies to come here. Well, apparently I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job. I'm just saying that maybe they're not working hard enough or fast enough. I'm going to take a look at that and bring that committee together. City council, the mayor's office, the city manager's office. If we have to truck out somewhere and offer a package that would entice somebody to come here, that would be great. The inspiring spaces that the mayor's talked about, I support it 100%. I think that beautifying the city and getting rid of some of these old buildings are what we need to do. And we're working on that gradually in the city. So what I'd like to see is just to take it a little bit further. We also have a program that the city has to help the underprivileged to acquire a home by paying their closing costs for them. And I would like to see that program expanded. I don't know if that came through a grant or if that came through the city's budget. But in any event, I think it's a wonderful program. The other thing I'd like to talk about just for a few minutes is the high crime rate. Ernie touched on it, and I believe he's correct. There's not much of a high crime rate here, not like in Charlotte or some of the other big cities. However, we can concentrate forces in a high crime area. And I used to be on the Charlotte Police Department as a patrol officer. And one of the things we used to do is that when we was not actually on a call, that car stayed in that neighborhood. It stayed there. You have a place down here where Odd Lots is. Got 10 stores that are empty. Somebody said that they had a robbery down there or some crime down there. There's no reason that we can't get either an off-duty police officer or the city police officers to concentrate in that area to protect our citizens and our businesses. So that's one area that I think we can work on. Decreased funding for the schools, I can't really answer that question. What are you going to do? I mean, we've had people from the federal government trying to figure out how we can improve our schools. Well, one of the things that we can do is make our teachers educate our children. Right now we have a lot of good teachers out there, but we also have some bad ones. I think the school and the school board need to look at that. And if we can, as a city, augment some of the funding, I think we should. Thank you.
You know, I want to say this with all humility, but I believe the thing that I feel most confident about is that I bring realism and vision to this job. Doesn't do us any good to talk about utopias and things that are not realistic. We've got to talk about what we can do in Hickory and get done in the next 4, 8, 12, 15 years. Additional affordable housing, I have a specific thing I want to do. HUD has taken $520,000 that the Hickory Housing Authority set aside for affordable housing for indigent. And now, because of what I view as a greatly exaggerated, very overestimated breach of protocol, HUD is making them, the Hickory Housing Authority, pay them $25,000 a year out of those funds until they're exhausted. I'm not sitting still for it. We're going to get that money back for the good indigent people of Hickory. It's their money. That's supposedly what HUD stands for. We're going to go after it. Decreased funding for city schools. All I'm going to say to you is we've got the best schools in the state of North Carolina, in Hickory city limits. I have a perspective of having lived and had children in Raleigh, Sanford, Charlotte, and Hickory. My kids left here, went to NC State, Virginia Tech, and did very well there. And we have all kinds of stories of kids from Hickory. They go to Harvard, they go to Duke, they go to Vanderbilt, and they succeed and excel. We have, in my opinion, and I've seen the others, we have the best school system in the state of North Carolina. The funding thing, the thing we have going for us is we do have the ability to get on the line and call Raleigh and talk to people and give our opinions, and they're listening to us. I called and said, if this state is going to cut out personal income tax and take it back on the backs of people making $30,000 a year with 4 children, then we all ought to be ashamed, and the politicians ought to just retire. What I would do to address all of these things is inspiring spaces. We've got a plan. It's been put together by some of the brightest minds in Hickory. This is not Hickory City Council plan. It is being put together by the brightest citizens, your neighbors, in this city. It calls for us to maintain Hickory's financial stability. We are within 7 years at normal payback of paying off all general fund debt. Look what we've been through, and that's where we are. We've gone from second highest per capita sales and property tax rate in 2001 to the 17th highest in our peer group. Enhance Hickory's partnerships. I've already referred to those. Holler Hosiery Mill, the Conservancy at Geithner Park, and all of the things that we've done legally and, in my opinion, reasonably and without unfair competitive advantage that we've done to provide incentives to corporations to grow and to locate here. And I'm going to talk about these last two with my last question. Thank you.
Okay, we're down to the last question before we take questions from the floor. And our last question would be, in the order that you started in, why the citizens of Hickory should vote for you.
I think the one thing that sets me apart from all these other fine folks up here is my qualifications. When my wife and I first got married, we bought a house and moved into the city limits of Hickory over in the Westmont area. Very shortly after that, I got involved in the Waste Reduction Task Force for the city. I later served 2 terms on the Board of Adjustment. That ended in December of 1999. February 1st, 2000, I was appointed the Information Technology Director for the city, and I served them in that capacity for 12 and a half years. I've been gone just over a year, and since then I've continued to be involved in my community. I've been involved in church, my children's schools, everything I can do. So I think that makes a big difference. All that experience has to count for something. I think one of the things I would definitely want to promote is working for openness and transparency in our government. There's been a lot of stuff in the paper. I'm not going to get into that, but I think the citizens of Hickory deserve to know everything that's going on in Hickory. I haven't been an employee. I've seen it. I've been the person behind the doors in those meetings, so I can help address those things for you. I believe in equality for all wards and for all people. I think there's been too much of a focus in certain areas of town. I would like to see that money spread around. Hickory's more than just a couple blocks downtown. Hickory is a large community. It's spread out, and I'd like to see that money going into all the different communities to promote businesses, to promote growth in those areas as well. I think we can improve our communications. I think that's an area we've been lacking as well. I would like to see, we've got Mr. Brannock up here filming for Tom Shell tonight, and I know one of the things I asked years ago as the IT director was we need to be showing our city council meetings. We need to be showing our public meetings to our citizens. And whether it's live or whether it's recorded and showed later, that's something we can discuss. But I think we definitely need to promote that. I think citizens need, if you can't get out and come to these meetings live, I think you need to see and hear what's going on in the city of Hickory. And I think we can do a lot of these things with the 21st century technologies. And being an IT guy, of course, that's where I'm going to lead. I'd like to start some quarterly open public forums. I love getting out and talking to people, so I'd like to continue to do that. I'd like to hear the ideas of everybody that's in here and then take those back to the people and talk candidly. There's been some discussion about term limits. Personally, I'm in favor of term limits. I think it promotes growth. I think it promotes new ideas. So I would be in favor of standing up and promoting those term limits. One of my favorite folks in science was Albert Einstein. Of course, everybody knows what a brilliant man he was. He had the definition of insanity, which I love to share. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. We're doing the same things over and over and over again, people. We've got to change something before we're going to have any positive reinforcement here. Hickory's been run by like a small town far too long. I want to see that changed. I think Hickory likes vision. I think they like leadership, and I think I can bring that to this position. We should be the economic and social hub of the whole community northwest of Charlotte, and we're not. I think we can be. I think we should be. One of my favorite inventors, and of course maybe you're guessing I've got a theme here about science, but I love Thomas Edison. And of course everybody knows Thomas Edison invented the light bulb and many other things. But I had the opportunity to visit his home down in Fort Myers, Florida. Thomas Edison said one time, discontent is the first necessity of progress. I'm about progress. I think there's a lot of discontent. Otherwise, I don't think you'd see all these people up here wanting to be your next mayor. I think it's time for progress in Hickory. I'm not Joe the plumber or Jim the furniture maker, but
he listens well.
I think it's Candice.
Why the citizens of Hickory should vote for me. The citizens of Hickory should vote for me because I bring a different perspective. Like the mayor, I've raised children in different cities, metropolitan cities, and I've raised them here as well. With that being said, as it speaks to my, I'm a little tongue-tied here, as it speaks to my perspective, I've seen how big cities run, I've seen how medium cities run, and I've seen how small cities run. And the inspiring spaces, I've seen that in some of the metropolitan cities. I've seen it in Cincinnati. They have a huge fountain and all of those things. However, is that going to solve our problems right now today? There are $80 million, I think, earmarked of our dollars to beautify Hickory. These issues that we've talked about tonight, is that going to solve that in 4 years? That construction, I don't think, will be done in 4 years, so that will not solve our problem right now. Getting the homeless off the street, investing in companies, investing in our people that are here is what we've got to invest in. I'm not saying that the bike trails, the flowers, I'm not saying they're not great. They're great. I love it. I've lived in Atlanta and I've had all those things, all those places. But we don't need that right now. We need to help our people. And they, like I said, they are in different shape than all of us in this room. They are. And in order for us to move forward and progress, we've got to invest and inspire people instead of spaces. Further, as far as why you should vote for me, I'm a keen listener. During my entire campaign, I've asked people what they think. Giving out my cell phone number, which seems to now be the trend. Nevertheless, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a problem solver. That's whenever I moved back, I saw a problem and I went at it. I volunteered as well. I think we all have given our civic duty, and all of us have done that. I've chaired civic groups and things of that nature, and I brought leaders together. I brought communities together, and it's time for us to bring this community together as well. I have no other agenda except for the betterment of Hickory. And this is my hometown, and I want it to be better, and we can be better. But again, the holler is awesome. The work that Zagaroli has done over this town, it is awesome, and I love it. However, that doesn't have to do with inspiring spaces. The demolition, I'm for it. That's great, and the incentive that companies get for that. That is completely separate for that $80 million. I already paid property taxes of about $900. I'm not prepared for my property taxes to go up and people still be unemployed.
Okay, why the citizens of Hickory should vote for me as mayor? I think I have the leadership qualities that we need in the mayor's office. Like I said earlier, I've run my own corporation for years, handled employees, handled the different aspects of running a corporation, keeping all the checks and balances, being honest with your employees, being honest with the companies that you work for. I think transparency and everything being done above table and then open for all the citizens of Hickory. We're using our tax dollars to run the city. We need to be transparent with everything that we do and not worry about things that show up in the paper and the community is discontent about how things are being run. So I think I'm a very honest person. If you ask anybody that has worked with me or that I've worked with or led in any of the things I've ever done, I'm very honest and I tell you exactly how I feel, what I think we should do. At the same time, I'm open to listening to anybody. I think all these candidates up here and our current mayor all have great ideas, and I think it needs to be a collaborative effort because it's going to take more than one person to get Hickory back on track. It's going to take all of us and all of the people in the community, all the companies, all the students in our local colleges and high schools. We just need to come together and work for a common goal. And I think I've got the enthusiasm, I've got the drive, the passion, that I love Hickory. I've lived here since I was 6 months old, and I've had the opportunity to move and live other places, but I've always come back to Hickory and I've always stayed here. I just think we need to keep it as number one in our heart, work for the people of Hickory as a whole, and spread out our concerns over the whole city. Like Jeff and Candice both touched on, I think we need to work in all parts of the city. It's not just a few blocks downtown. It's not just a half a mile out on 127, or it's not, down on South Center Street or on Tate Boulevard or any one section of town. We need to look at the city as a whole, lift it up, and everybody come together and make it better. I think I can do that. I've got the drive, the initiative, and I think right now it's the right time for a change. in City Hall, and I think I'm the candidate that can make it happen for us.
Next candidate, please.
No jumping hill. It must be. Okay, why do I want to be mayor? Budget issues, economic development, infrastructure, employee benefits, the unemployed. These problems are going to be with us. We're going to have to get together with our city manager, our city council, and try to solve some of these issues. But they're going to be ongoing. There's not much we can do about it. We can work on the problem, and I want to see them solved, but there'll always be another problem popping up. I'm retired from the United States Navy. Spent 21 years in service. I know about leadership. I've led 60 to 100 men at one time. And sometimes that's easy, sometimes it's really hard. And that's what we have to do in our city government. We're going to have to lead our city in the proper direction. We can do this in a couple of ways. Of course, the city has got boards, committees for everything you can think of. I haven't seen a whole lot coming out of any of those. I want to see more. If we're going to have an art council, let's get them and let's have an art council. And let's make them work for their projects, whether it be art or whether it be bringing business. I'm really keen on business, and I want to see a lot of business come to Hickory. We should be the showplace of Catawba County for new businesses, and I hope we can bring that here. Someone talked about transparency. Yeah, I want to see transparency. Anywhere from a meeting in the building to a city council meeting. I want to see town halls get feedback from folks like y'all. It's important, because if we don't have the feedback, then we're kind of going to be guessing at what direction we're taking our citizens without our citizens really knowing or approving. Okay? I want to solve some of that problem. I'm thinking about maybe writing an article monthly in the newsletter that the city sends out. I think that would be beneficial in keeping people alert to what's going on. And I want to see those things. I've had 21 years in the Navy as a leader. I've been a trucking manager for a large trucking company. I had about, I think, 60 drivers, 250 trailers, and 60 or 70 tractors that we had to maintain. Big budget. So I know what budgets look like, and I know how to make them work. Thank you.
This is not a debate, and I'm deliberately not addressing very many points made by my esteemed opponents. These are good people. Anybody that runs a clean campaign, I'm going to stand ready the day after the election, if I'm not successful, to call that person and say, tell me what I can do to help you successful. My business needs it, and Hickory needs it. A couple things I do want to address. I need to check this closely on the tape, but I am concerned that Mr. Brittain might have given the impression that he participated in an illegal meeting of City Council. City Council has not had an illegal meeting in my tenure. Second, the $80 million for beautification. Oh, I can't do that? The beautification, the $80 million. I don't know. No money is earmarked for anything. I'm sorry, I did not realize. Some things just need to be corrected. Some things can be let to sit and fester. There is no earmarked funds in this city for inspiring spaces. Someday there will be, if you elect the right leadership, who are going to take this city and turn it around now that we turned the corner. The program for Inspiring Spaces is beautification, amenities, renovation and demolition of old buildings, and job-ready and shovel-ready sites for people who want to locate jobs here. The reason people should elect me for mayor, I think, in a nutshell, is I've lived at almost every socioeconomic level. I value everybody's input. If they have the economic standing of my dad, or thanks to God, the economic standing of many of us who have been more successful. The first house I lived in did not have an indoor toilet. And I will never forget walking into the first indoor toilet that we had. Thanks to God and good luck and maybe some work, Donna and I today own 19 flush toilets. My dad operated off his hip. He was a laborer. He worked as a fixer at the knitting mill. He lost his job like this and went on unemployment. I'll never say anything bad about unemployment because I know what it meant to us. He came home one day and said, you know, those ladies are tired of wearing the hosiery with the seams up the back. They're moving to something crazy called pantyhose. And he said, and I'm out of a job. So we drew some unemployment for a while, and he got another job. Ultimately, he became a minister. Don't blame me. I was not a preacher's kid. He got his GED the same year I got my college degree. I can identify with the person at every level in this city. I care about every person in this city. My cell phone has been public knowledge to everybody ever since I've been mayor. Yeah, I've got it on my signs now. And I've gotten calls, and I'm glad. But I've gotten 1,000 or more calls since I've been mayor. And I've taken everyone graciously, seriously, and done what I could to help those citizens. It's the right time for the right choice. Thank you.
Now, we can give our candidates a hand. Now, is Mr. John W. Goodall here?
Right here.
Okay, I'm going to read this question to the candidates. Came from this young man right there. This comes from Mr. John W. Goodall. What is your highest priority action or project to improve Hickory's, and then he has in quotations, in your response to include this, the time period, the anticipated cost, and sources of funding. Again, what is your highest priority action or project to improve Hickory's? And then he has this list of things. No things. What is it? Improve Hickory in what way, Mr. Goodall?
Just to improve Hickory.
Oh, just to improve Hickory.
What's the time?
4 minutes. Because, let's do, we get a little bit of time. Let's do 5. Okay? Is that okay? Okay. Would you like to, this is a question that we're going to take some from, should I do it again? Sorry. They couldn't hear it? Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's okay. Mr. John W. Goodall. And he had a question that says, what is your highest priority action plan or project to improve Hickory, period? And these include the time period, anticipated cost, and the source of funding for improving Hickory. And he didn't specify any way. He just wanted Hickory to be improved. So you can speak to it any way that you feel like you can speak to it.
And you want 4 minutes on each.
Mm-hmm. 4.
I'll go back to this thing I've been saying all night, and that is jobs. I think to improve Hickory, people have to be working. People working, they're going to be buying houses. They're going to be buying stuff at the store. It all comes back down to tax dollars And to do that, we have to have people working in Hickory. So once again, my plan to do that is to hire a dedicated person focused on bringing those jobs to Hickory and keeping those jobs in Hickory. I don't think there's really an additional cost to that. Having been an employee at the City of Hickory for so long, I've seen a multitude of restructurings that have happened. I don't think we're looking at an additional source to be able to hire this person. It's just a matter of shuffling some things around, and we're not going to ask for any more money to do anything like this. There are plenty of positions in Hickory. Maybe it's an existing person who would move into this position. Maybe it's shuffling a few things around and hiring someone from the outside who has these skills. But I think we can do it quickly. I think we can do it at no cost. No budget changes, no amendments, or anything like that. And I think we could get some immediate impact from this. The School of Government is a wonderful resource. I've been down there. I got a Chief Information Officer certification at UNC Chapel Hill in 2005. I was down there for 11 months, a couple days every month on campus, which I absolutely enjoyed again after being gone for so long. But they have a huge amount of resources there. They have attorneys, they have planning people, they have everything that you would need. We have a great resource right here in Hickory at the Western Piedmont Council of Government. These guys provide statistics. They're looking at the whole Unifor area, but those numbers are all available for us at any time. All we have to do is go ask. Taylor Dellinger, if you don't know Taylor, he has a wealth of knowledge. So you can look him up, you can ask him about anything in this area, and he can spit it out. So I think we can do this quickly. I think we can do it at no more cost, and that's my plan to make an immediate impact quickly in Hickory and solve this.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read this again because it's a lot to absorb. So the question is, what is your highest priority action plan or project to improve Hickory? And in the time period, anticipated cost, and where would your sources of funding come from? That's the question.
All right. My highest priority, as we spoke about, would be jobs. The business incubator, we would have to procure a building. I would say probably about $200,000. There's several buildings around town that would fit this, having the office space needed for that. The employment would come from volunteers, actually. The SCORE, those are retired business people, so that would actually get started with just the procurement of the building, and that could be pretty quickly done. The other people would be, like I said, the Chamber of Commerce, CBCC, the SBA, and all of those things are already in place, so it wouldn't be anything in addition, no other person hired or anything like that. Economic development, that exists already, so as far as them going out vetting for new jobs, that could start immediately. So all of these things are right now ready to start.
All right, we're moving on quickly. Do I need to read this again, or?
Sure.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. What is your highest priority action or project to improve Hickory? And the items are the time period, anticipated cost, and where would the funding come from?
Okay. I think both of the first two answers are great. It hit on some of the same topics that I would like to say. In the interest of time, I want to just expand on what they've said. I think that the city's role in helping to nurture and grow the companies that we have in place already there needs to be more communication with the companies that are here. We need to set up some type of incentives that make it more attractive to more companies to come into the Hickory area. I don't think we've obviously got the EDC, which concentrates on the county. I think the city has to have its own committee or person in place to do that. So I don't see that there being any additional cost to that. It's just we need to start doing it. We need to start pitching to these companies and go after them, not just open up a new business and then sit there in City Hall and see what happens in a few months. We need to continually do it every day. We need to go after the companies, get them here to help our unemployment rate and make the city better. When we get the new companies in the town, we're going to have more cash flow coming in, more jobs available for our unemployed that we have. And it's something that can immediately happen. A lot of the stuff is already in place. We just need to get behind it, make it work faster, and make the city and these companies that we want here communicate better, help them get started quicker, make the ease of regulation and opening up the business and getting these jobs available for the people that need them a faster process.
Do I need to read that?
No, ma'am, I got
Thank
it.
you, okay.
Okay, of course, I'm like everybody else up here. I think the most important thing here is jobs. And I think we need to work with the city council and the planning commission. And as they said, there's already a bunch of agencies already in place. We can kind of put a little pressure on them, maybe get them working a little quicker. One of the things that's close and dear to my heart is code enforcement. We have 3 code enforcement officers. Now, it doesn't take an Einstein to figure how many dilapidated buildings, how many grown-up lots with stuff all in them that are all throughout the city. But it takes quite a while to issue the first citation. I think 10 days. And then I think it's up to about 45 days before they really can take any effort. But the problem with that we have to look at it, because some of these jobs, some of these codes are on properties that are owned by banks. And you have to get in there and talk to the banks and see if we can get them to do something to clean up this mess. I don't know how we're going to do that right offhand, but maybe we can get a few more people out knocking on doors to find out what's going on with these properties. The funding for these code enforcement officers, we're going to have to talk to the chief of police and see if we can come up with funding that's already out there. There's some places in the police department and the fire department, all the departments, that can be cut some. Every time I've been around a government budget, they always ask for more, and they rarely ask for less. So there's some budget places we can get some money out of. 3 officers. So that doubles the size, so we can get that going. The other thing is reducing the red tape we have in government. In our city, just get some of the permits takes quite a while. You have to come up with all these codes and things like this. Let's cut some of this regulation out. We can get in there. Of course, we don't want to gut the system, don't get me wrong. But we want to get in there, and we're truly to cut. Let's cut some of this tape. Let's don't take forever for a new business to get the proper permitting it needs. Thank you.
It's becoming, I think, I don't have one project. What I have is Inspiring Spaces. And remember, Inspiring Spaces is beautification, amenities, destruction and renovation of old buildings, and construction of new job-ready sites, both lots and buildings. There's no money earmarked for that, so it's kind of hard to explain. But I would tell you this. I'm going to give you some money. I was a CPA. I think in addition to realism and vision, I bring financial savvy. 24 years as a CPA. I know what we can afford and what we can't. Now, what we want to spend and what we can afford are 2 different things. We need to be talking about not dipping a toe in and saying, let's go back and say we tried something and we'll come back and we'll try something else year after next. It's time for aggressive, visionary action. You asked me to guess a number? I would say, let's talk about $8 million off the bat, okay? Let's spend $8 million on what I'm calling Inspiring Spaces. probably 2/3 of that is renovation and demolition and job-ready sites. But let's start with $8 million. Let's see where we go from there. Let's see if we are inspiring the state government, the federal government, and individuals to invest. We've been blessed the last 2 years to have $7 million invested in holler hosiery that was not city money. We've been blessed to have a commitment to do a conservancy at $2 to $5 million that's not city money. I believe the answer is going to be inspiring spaces and making it happen. And I don't understand completely why the other candidates shy away from that. Inspiring spaces is what's going to, it's not the name Inspiring Spaces, it's the actions behind it that's going to help us turn the city around. And it's going to take a long time.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the floor? Thank you so much for that. It was a great question, Mr. Fuller. Yes, sir.
Yes. I'd just like to say,
Just state your name.
Alan Strait. I moved to Hickory 25 years ago. I'm a Pennsylvania native, moved here from Texas. So I have lived in other areas of the country. I've seen things as bad as Detroit, and I've seen things that are, as beautiful as our area here in Hickory.
Can we direct it?
I moved here
I'm sorry. I want to know if you want to direct it to one.
No, in general,
Okay.
to the candidates,
Okay.
and I want to thank you all for being here.
All right.
One of the, what I wanted to say is one of the reasons I did move here 25 years ago without a job, and my wife as well, is when I came to Hickory, I was passing through, and I was just struck with the natural beauty, and also with a real resource that we have here are the citizens of Hickory, and how kind-hearted, how much energy, enthusiasm, a can-do spirit exists in this area. And so I think that one of the things that we overlook, maybe we're too close to it, but we have an airport, we have water, we have interstate highway system. These are things that I think sometimes are not taken fully into consideration. And when we talk about incentive, this is one of the things that worries me. I'm not in favor of prostituting ourselves, spending large sums of money to get companies to move to this area. I feel that if the city does have a beautification program, if they do renovate old buildings, in other words, if we make ourselves, and we're already there, but if we improve our desirability, people will want to come to this area. Another thing is weather. If you've lived in other parts of the country, gosh, when you look at the weather out here tonight, I know I'm running a little long.
You are.
But I'll get to it. But anyway, I think that's some of the things that we overlook, and that I don't know that when we talk about jobs, I don't know that the way our national economy is right now and our state government is just now turning the corner. I don't know that really, as local politicians, that you should be held responsible for, nor do I think that you can really provide or guarantee that you're going to bring jobs to our area, other than by maintaining city services and making the area desirable, and hoping that the private sector will recognize this and move to Hickory or remain in Hickory. So it's just my thinking on it. I mean, I think it's a great thing to say that you're going to get up there and you're going to bring jobs to the city, but I don't know necessarily whether you should be held responsible for that or that you can even do that. But just my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question, but I will tell you, would you like a part-time job as an ambassador?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. That really was the question. It was an awesome statement. So we
thank
you
you,
for that. Yes, Mr. Moon.
My name is Cliff Moon. Live over here about 5 minutes away. Ward 2. The mayor had, at some point this spring, I believe, made a suggestion that we might look at a prepared food tax to help pay for some things, and I assume inspiring spaces and that kind of thing. I would just like to know what anybody's position is at this time on that kind of tax, or any other kind of tax that you might be proposing.
And you all don't have to answer, but if you want to, go right ahead. Answer the question.
I keep our same order.
Same order?
Yes, if you want to.
Well, I have heard about the proposed food tax. Any way you look at it, a tax is a tax, whether it's on your real estate or on the food you're eating or the clothes you're buying. I'm not sure this is the time that we need to be taxing our citizens when they're struggling so much. If we're going to tax something, I think it needs to be tied to a specific accomplishment that is going to be planned there. If you say, I want to raise the tax on your house 1% across the board, and it's going to provide 3 new officers, I'm all for that. And I think most people would be in favor of that. If you're going to offer a tax that's going to go into a fund, and who knows where it's going to help or who it's going to help or if it's going to help anybody, I'm not in favor of that. So my thought would be, I'm not in favor of any kind of taxes at this time. If we're going to do a project, I think we need to have the money in hand and take care of it ourselves. I don't think we can push it off on the private sector. It's great that they've pitched in and helped them to do some of these other renovations that we've seen. But at some point we have to invest in ourselves. How many people have stock? Anybody have any stock that they've invested in? The stock market made tons of people in America rich over the years. It had a very simple philosophy. You buy low and you sell high. Real simple, right? Well, Hickory's been down, and I don't feel that our current city council has invested. And I feel like, when we're down, I think that was the time to make an investment. And I think, we needed to do that to help build ourselves back up and promote growth back in this city. And that's what I'm promoting right now is I think we need growth, and I think we need progress again.
Okay. Am I prepared for a food tax? No. Am I prepared for a property tax? No. We spoke about I'm not prepared for it for myself or for anyone else at this time. Further, we talked about beautification. In what you said was hope, that was hope tied to the beautification. Though it is beautiful already, and yeah, that might be nice. That's a little shaky for me. Now, the job portion, if we have a job opening and the people are able to work, if they have a high school diploma or a GED, that job can be filled. It's an easy thing. It's not a hope. It's not shaky. It's not uncertainty. We have holes. We have people. We just put the people in the holes. So that portion of it, the job portion, is kind of the direction we need to be in. So.
Mr. Moon, say your question one more time. You just wanted to know if we were
Well,
in
I know
favor
that
of
there
the
has
food
been
tax.
at one
Right.
time proposed. It hasn't been voted on or anything like that.
Right.
The mayor brought it up as an idea, and I was there when that idea was brought up. And I just wondered how you felt about that, because it could something that could come up or not about the proposed. It's a prepared foods tax that I understood, if I'm right, and I'm sure if I'm wrong, the mayor will correct me in a minute. But I will, and expect him to. But that or any other kind of tax increases that would be applied to inspiring spaces or whatever other of the projects we've been asked about here today. You can't pay for things without the money to pay for them. You can promise anything, but you can't do it unless you can pay for it. So.
Right. Well, I would say I'm against the prepared food tax. I've got some friends that are in restaurant businesses. They are too. And I'm against raising any other taxes at this point right now. I think as a community, we're struggling right now. I think there's spending going on at City Hall that we need to look at and redirect some of those funds, because there are some expenses that can be cut or done differently. I think we need to be more efficient with the income. We have a $90 million budget at City Hall, so we can be a little bit more conservative with that money and use it for things that are going to benefit the community as a whole directly. So I don't think we need to raise the taxes, the food tax or property tax or anything like that.
No. I am sick and tired of paying taxes. I pay more than my share. I'll give you a little story. San Diego, California, in the 1940s, they had a ferry that went from San Diego to Coronado. They decided they wanted a bridge. So they built this bridge. And there was a toll put on this bridge. And the toll was, it was just going to be on there long enough to get this bridge paid for. Well, like all good politicians in San Diego, that tax is still on that bridge, and it's still a toll road. When I lived there, it was 60 cents one way. If a tax goes on anything, I don't know of any politician that'll pull it off. So that money is going to be there. So the answer to your question is, at this particular time, I would not be in favor of that tax, nor would I be in favor of any other tax.
Let's see, this goes, I got vision, financial savvy, realism. We're getting to realism here now, I think. Remember we said the community, businesses and individuals will invest in a community that invests in the city. We've got to create a sense of place here that people say, oh, Hickory is that neat place. Hickory is doing things. Their citizens have gotten together and said, we are tired of the old days. We're tired of fighting for lower taxes all the time. We want to make some things happen. We are going to make things happen. We will do it with a referendum. It's our job to talk the voters into helping us make these investments. And there needs to be a sunset. That is, if we talk them into investing, let's tell them it's for a 10-year period or a 5-year period, and what we expect to do with it, what we expect to accomplish, and then we'll do another referendum if we still need the money. We're not going to be taxing toll roads that have been paid for, taxing for toll roads that have been paid for the last 5 years. We're going to engage our citizens the way we have been doing. Today, we have about 240 people serving on boards and commissions. That's about 40 more than the 200 that were serving in 2001 when I was elected. We listen to what they say. We value their opinion. You can look at art, science, athletics in this community, and you'll see the heavy hand of the citizens, your neighbors, your peers, involved in those things. But no, we've got to be realistic, visionary, and financially savvy if we're going to pull this off.
So we do have one question, the last question of this young man right here, because we have to be out of here at 8:30.
8:30. Jay Clinton Davis. I'm very happy to see all these candidates up here because I was part of the group that brought up the referendum for the pure water voting system. We love to see democracy at the local level. I've lived in a lot of the communities here in Hickory. I've been here most of my life. I'm 44, but I've been here most of my life, and I've seen how certain parts of the communities they seem to grow, and others seem to be left behind. And I'm wondering, what are you going to do when there are people from different sectors of the community? I've lived in the Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. I've even lived in the Northeast section of Hickory. I tried for one of those boards that the mayor spoke of, and I think I applied for it maybe 4 months ago on a seat that was vacant since 9/11. And when I submitted my application, then everybody put somebody in that position. So I wonder how that's going to be. But what are you going to do to bring the 4 quadrants of the city together? Because we're in this together. And like one candidate said, inspiring spaces is fine, but we need to inspire people. I have no children, no dependents, but yet I'm still here fighting for everyone that's in the community. Even though you may know me, you may not. I'm fighting for you, your vote, to make this city great like it was when I was coming up. It was very beautiful. And someone spoke about the crime. In my communities, there's a place called Boss Park, and in southeast section of Hickory, I got a police. Well, it was Burl Hamilton. He was the police chief, and a lot of times that part of the community was dumped on and said the crime, and it was actually safer to be in those communities. Okay, I'm sorry, man. And in the northwest section of Hickory. But I'm wondering, what are you going to do with everyone's vote that's in here to pull this community together? And I'm not talking about favoritism, nepotism, and all that other stuff, because we're in this together.
Okay, the question has been asked. 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, thank you.
That's okay. She's going to get you on the one, so we got a time frame.
I was in favor of the board voting that you had alluded to. I voted for that myself. I think it makes sense that if you live in an area, you should be represented. You should elect the person that's going to be representing you. A lot of popularity contest across the city. So that being said, I'm all in favor of unity. I said earlier, I felt like we've invested a lot of time, a lot of energy in certain areas of town. I want to see that money spread around. Hickory's more than just Union Square area or even Beaumont. There's a lot of beautiful areas in Hickory. There's a lot of commerce going on in here, and I think everybody deserves an equal shot at that money. I think the community as a whole needs to come together. We can fix this problem, but unity is going to be important, and that means the mayor, the city council, city staff, and all the citizens working together. And we need to do that as a unified body.
How are we going to come together? This is a good first step. Everybody does it. Everyone in the city doesn't come out for the city council meetings, but thank you, Shell, for making sure they're recorded and they're online. That is one portion of it. As far as the recording, I think a lot of people are in favor of this, where we actually broadcast either on the public access channel or provide it online so people can be engaged, because a lot of times decisions have been made and everyone wasn't a part of those decisions. So if we bring everybody in where everyone has a chance to decide what we want and what we need, that unity will be there. There are some people that feel that they don't belong in the city, and they are disengaged because they don't feel they have a seat at the table. So through broadcasting online and via the television, the access channel, that will bring people together. And as well, we have these festivals. Oktoberfest, we will see all of Hickory come together for Oktoberfest. We will. Those festivals and all of those things, that brings everyone out, no matter color, race, anything, that brings everybody out. We need to do more of those things. And I'm not all against beautification, but whether maybe my figure was 8 or whether it's 80, it's just not at that magnitude. But nevertheless, if we do things to have people come out, entertainment, that is one of the things. Making sure that children have places to go, which they don't right now. That's why they don't want to be here, because they don't have anywhere to go. They hang out at the Taco Bell and on Highway 6470. So, nevertheless, having entertainment, such as our Oktoberfest and things of that nature, and businesses that are for these children to have places to go, and these little trendy spots, just the same as like Delishy, the frozen yogurt, all of those things are great things. So we just have to continue to build upon those things.
I spoke with you outside a little bit earlier, and I appreciate that question, because that's one of the things that I was concerned about here in the city. I feel like there's become a division between the different neighborhoods in the city, and we do need to come back together as a community and work together to make the city better. The Inspiring Spaces is great, and we're getting grants to help that, but why can't the community come together and invest in the community and do our own cleanup? Be responsible for making the buildings look better, the yards look better, and that kind of thing. I think we need to put Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, all that aside, black, white, whether you live in the north side, the south side, and come back together and join hands and try to make Hickory as great as it used to be. Just like you said when you were growing up, same thing for me when I was growing up here in the 1980s and 90s. Hickory was the greatest place to be, I think, in western North Carolina, and we need to make it that way again. So it is going to take a community effort. I think I've always been able to bring different people together and for a common goal, and that is a great goal to have, because if we continue what we're doing now, we're just going to divide the city more, and it's going to get worse instead of better. So definitely want to do that. Thank you.
I have a rather simple explanation for what I'd like to do, and that is a mayoral council. One person from each ward to come in and meet twice a month, and they will bring with them what's going on in their community, and we can sit down, we can talk about it, and if necessary we can take it to the city manager council, and maybe we can get something done about it. These folks here have some great ideas. I don't dispel any of those. We do have to have something more for our youth. I saw a piece on the TV the other day about Jethro's over in Vail. Those kind of activities I think are wonderful. Oktoberfest is a great idea. The fair that the American Legion puts on, that's good too. You know, I know we have a little fair down here in the mall area every so often, but I think there's lots of things we can do to bring our city together. And town hall meetings is perhaps, to me anyway, one of the greatest ways, because getting feedback from you guys is the best way to determine how we would like to enhance our city. Thank you.
Well, I think we need to mix some realism with some hopefulness. The ward referendum was intended to divide our city. It was intended to create an environment where we have each representative accountable, as far as votes are concerned, accountable only to the people in their sector. What we have now is you're accountable to both. You have to come out of the primary in your sector, and then you have to be elected at large through the entire city, so you're accountable to both. I'm going to show you, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. I make so many appearances in all sections of the city. I have dear, wonderful friends in all sectors. And I'm going to keep doing that. When I took economics, we talked, this is pretty bad here, this is the way I draw, but we talked about a bell-shaped curve. Bell-shaped curve means with any issue or any population of people, if you take it along here and you plot people depending on, in this case, the degree to which they're unified and satisfied with unification, you're going to have 5% over here on the right who are so super unified, it doesn't matter what happens, they're going to be unified, they're happy, they're going to be loving and with everybody. And then you got 90% in the center here that are various degrees of unified, and then you got 5% over here, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're not going to be unified. That's mixing realism with hopefulness, okay? My goal is to keep doing what I've been doing, maintain my friendships, my commitment to the rights of the people in every sector of the city, and I promise you if I'm reelected, I will do that.
Carolyn, yes. I don't have a question, but I'm in Farthing, and I will be running the early voting for the city. And I want everybody here to know it starts on Thursday, 8 to 5 weekdays in this room, and the last Saturday, October the 5th, 8 to 1. So anybody who wants to vote, you may start voting in the primary on Thursday, and not very many people will be voting if you don't tell other people that voting starts on Thursday, 8 o'clock in this room.
Great information. Great information. You guys have been so good. If you just bear with one more question with 1 minute. This man, I have to, because he just was jumping up and down. One moment, just one quick question, and
It's a yes or no, and in the interest
yes,
of
no, yes,
transparency,
no.
I will tell you, my name is Paul Berg. I was a chairman last year of the opposition to the referendum that would change the way we vote, and we won that election. I'm disappointed that Dr. Jody Inglefield is not here, because I wanted to ask him this question. You're not running this, and I'm talking.
Yeah, but we can't.
I wanted to ask him a question, but I can put this question to these people.
Okay. I have no disrespect for you, but he's not here to defend himself.
Well, I can ask the idea. I can ask the question to these as the comment he made. He said,
Excuse me, sir, but don't disrespect her. She's in charge of this. Please don't disrespect her.
And we enjoyed it. Thank you so much.